Planet Terror. I saw Death Proof a while back, but I didn't get around to seeing the other half of the Grindhouse double feature until now. I didn't think this movie would be that great, but I was fairly surprised by it. The direction by Robert Rodriguez is excellent. It has a deliberately grainy picture, as well as excellent dark lighting, which I feel complements the atmosphere. It's one heck of a violent film too. It's filled with some awesome visual effects, notably the gore and makeup, and I think that the inclusion of a stripper who has a machine gun for a leg was just too cool to describe. I also really like Quentin Tarantino's cameo. Overall, I do think that it is an inferior film to Death Proof, but it does work very well as a companion piece. The Nightmare Before Christmas. Although Tim Burton did not direct this film, his style is spilled all over it, and I was very glad to finally get around to seeing another one of his great works. I think that what the two best things about this movie are the fact that it can easily work as both a Christmas movie and a Halloween movie, and the outstanding animation. The animation is just jaw-dropping and stands as a perfect example of an alternate storytelling technique. I wasn't that huge a fan of the musical side of it, but it does help tell the movie's story, so there isn't really anything too much to complain about. Aside from being a fantastic visual experience, there isn't too much to this movie, but it's very short and fairly enjoyable, so I say give it a watch. Babe. I watched this film a lot when I was very young, and I've been having a desire to revisit some childhood favourites lately, so I figured I should rewatch this. It's really fascinating to see what animal trainers can do and how it can help to create a great family film. The voice actors all do very well, Hugo Weaving being one of the more notable names that really stands out. It didn't really live up to the same enjoyment that I had from when I was a little kid, but it's still a pretty good movie that people of all ages would be able to enjoy. J.S.A. Joint Security Area. I watched this because Quentin Tarantino named it one of his favourite films that has come out since he became a director, and since it was directed by Chan-wook Park, who made one of my favourite films, Oldboy, I had high expectations. Did it live up? I'm afraid not. But is it a bad movie? No way. The characters are all pretty likeable, and the film does a wonderful job at capturing the historic tensions between North and South Korea. But I have to admit that at times this movie can be really slow moving, which somewhat hurt the experience of watching it for me. It is a good movie, it just let me down a little bit, and when I knew about all this potential for my own enjoyment, I think that's just a bit bothering to me, but nonetheless, it's a good film, so go watch it. The Kite Runner. This is one of those really moving movies about friendship, ambition, and poverty. The film begins in 1978 Afghanistan and shows the friendship between two young boys. When the Soviet Union invades a year later, one of them flees to America to start a new life, only to find himself returning to Afghanistan years later during the Taliban's reign. I found this movie to be quite engaging. The characters are very well fleshed out, the actors all do a terrific job, and the portrayal of how Afghanistan has changed is quite sad. While it's always been a poor country, back in 1978 it wasn't quite as nasty as it is now, and the scenes set during the Taliban's reign really can be quite shocking. They truly were one of the most disgusting regimes to exist. If what I said to you now piqued your interest, then I think that you should watch this film. Just be aware that there is some intense and potentially disturbing content. Gorillas in the Mist. I have very little to say about this film, so I'll sum it up quickly. It's the story of guerrilla researcher Dian Fossey told on film, and for what it's worth, it is good. It exposes the importance of animal conservation, in reference to gorillas. It has some great jungle scenery, and, in my opinion, has one of the best performances by Sigourney Weaver. Regardless if you knew the true story of Dian Fossey before watching this like I did, it's a very good drama and I'd recommend it. Stephen King's It. Mostly, I think of this movie very positively, but it has some major and inexcusable flaws. As far as positives go, Tim Curry is great as Pennywise, and the first half of the film where the characters are kids is awesome. And despite what some people say, I think the second half is fairly enjoyable too. Here are my gripes though. The character development on the most part is very bad. Lots of background characters constantly do stupid things, and too many scenes lack explanation. I'm sure that in the novel these things are explained, but as far as the film goes, it just comes off as, well, stupid. Why is it that Pennywise can be stopped by being read the names of birds? Who knows, but I did like this movie though, and the length, which is 3 hours long, didn't bother me at all. But they really need to clear up a lot of things. I recommend this movie, but there are some things they really should have fixed. Jumanji. Like I said with Babe, I watched this movie a lot when I was around 5 or 6, and for nostalgia, I decided to revisit it. Upon rewatching it, I can admit that there are some flaws like this, like the occasional plot hole, but I think that the fun factor that this movie has to offer really overshadows it. The idea that all of these catastrophic things can come out of a board game is a pretty cool idea, and although the digital effects are pretty outdated now, they didn't detract from my enjoyment of it in any way. Robin Williams delivers a really good performance too. If you're a parent, I really think you should show this movie to your kids, but be aware that it might be a little bit scary for the younger ones. And if you're an adult, I'm sure you'd enjoy it, even if it can be a bit ridiculous. I loved this film as a kid, and I still like it quite a lot now. Dazed and Confused. I'm going to paraphrase something that Quentin Tarantino said. This is one of the best hangout movies out there. Watching this movie feels very much like you're hanging out with your friends, and man, do I agree with that. Set in the 70s, I think that Dazed and Confused really captures the feeling of being a teenager from that time, and regardless of your age or clique, I think anybody who went to high school, well, obviously everyone's been to high school, would be able to relate to it in some way, which is one of the brilliant things about it. One thing that made me think twice was those guys who were beating the younger guys' backsides with cricket bats. It makes me wonder, did people really do that back then? All the actors do good jobs in my opinion, and what I think has to be undeniable is the sheer awesomeness of the film's soundtrack. Just lots of classic rock. I really love teen films, and this is seriously one of the best additions to this genre that I have ever seen. I mean, I'll definitely pick this film up on DVD, and hopefully if you see it and enjoy it, you will too. Battle Royale. I saved the best for last for this video, and let me tell you, I thought this film was outstanding. I saw this since I didn't get a chance to see The Hunger Games with my friends on the day they planned on seeing it, and Tarantino, and I know his name's popping up a lot, did say he wished he made this film. And I gotta say, any hype I had was exceeded. The actors all do a great job, the direction by the late Kinji Fukasaku is amazing, the violence is disturbing but completely awesome at the same time. And one of the coolest things of all is that the film is often very melodramatic, but so effective. Yes, the film is about teenagers slaughtering each other for their own survival, but it doesn't forget that they are still teenagers who place importance on things that are really aren't that meaningful. That doesn't mean the film isn't without its fair share of serious drama though, which is a good thing. In this sense, Battle Royale is a teen film, but a completely demented one at that. I also love how it presents a future Japan that's really headed for disaster. I had a chat with one of my friends who saw the movie basically around the same time I did, and we both agreed that the movie deserves a perfect 10 out of 10 score. If that doesn't emphasize my recommendation and love for this movie enough, then I don't know what does. Anyways guys, that is my video. I hope you enjoyed it and discovered some potential films you'd enjoy. Goodbye.